It's the World Cup of World Cups, episode 21, Russia 2018.
Thursday, 14th of June 2018. Japan lowers the age of adulthood from 20 to 18. AT&T completes its acquisition of Time Warner, and the Attorney General of New York announces that she is suing President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, in Moscow, it's all kicking off.
It's very strange. It's all very odd. But yeah, again, I watched it and loved it as well, and I hated myself for loving it.
It's only the time there to sink a pint of wine.
I would be actively bad, and then be like, "What are you going to do? Literally, what are you going to do?"
You know, your neighbour arguably didn't have the force of the Russian space agency behind it.
You don't know that.
That'd be hilarious if you're just asking for 3 tennis balls backed with a Kalashnikov.
That wall was fun. Do you guys want to go over to a World Cup together? Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Hang out, have pints. Like, come on, guys.
Why? Why'd you let that happen?
Help me out here.
Привет и добро пожаловать подкаст чемпионата мира про футболу. Эпизод 21. Россия 2018. Меня зовут Дмитрий Кок, и ко мне, как всегда, присоединяется Нилси Полсевич. Привет, Paul, как дела?
Здоровья.
Yes, we are in Matryoshka for the 2018 World Cup, the most recent one. Also joining us is comedy writer, author, host of Taskmaster the podcast, and co-host of the brilliant Football Book Club podcast. It's conflicted Arsenal fan, Jack Bernhardt. Hello, Jack.
Hello. Great to meet you guys, James and Paul. Don't hear a lot of Russian these days, do you, in that context?
No, I think we've just been pinged at GCHQ.
Not as popular as it was.
Yeah. Strange that, isn't it? Odd stuff.
We're going to be deep diving the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Before we get into that, though, the answer to the teaser from the last episode, when I asked, Brazil in 2014 became the second host nation to finish 4th in a World Cup. Who were the first?
I'm going to say Italy in
Nope.
1990.
I'm going to say West Germany.
What, in 1974 when they won it?
No, the other one.
It's South Korea in 2002.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course it is. Oh,
now I feel thick.
So the 2018 World Cup. Jack, where does 2018 find you?
much in the, well, I was going to say much in the same place. So similar-ish in the same place. London, about the same age I am now, which is confusing, I suppose, given how time works. I was thinking that the next 4 years of my life will be really, really good, and I'll be able to go out around the world and not be stuck in my house for a long period. No, I watched it. I basically watched it with my friends in my house. I didn't go to many pubs for it. I was feeling quite conflicted about it. I don't know how you guys feel about 2018 and this World Cup. I feel like with other World Cups, I have a sense of like nostalgia and a sense of like, oh, this is, you know, I loved watching it. Or even like recent ones like the Euros last year, you know, I think I'll look back on it very fondly because a lot of great memories and a lot of great things. But with 2018, I think, yeah, I don't know. How do you guys feel about it?
I was conflicted going into it, and then as soon as football started, I was like, I forget all of those things, which is exactly what they want. That's why sports washing exists.
It's a very good system if you're a sports washy. They do very, very well out of it. I had the exact same thing where I was like, I'm not going to watch this. And then the first match was Russia versus, and I watched it with a friend. And I think I went over to his house and we were like, we'll put it on, but you know, we don't have to watch it. And it was Russia versus Saudi Arabia, which is not a good, and it's not even a good match of football when you look back on it.
It was the two worst teams in the tournament according to the FIFA rankings.
Yeah, and you sort of feel like there must have been a little bit of, I know it's sacrilege to say that there was any kind of dodgy dealings with this World Cup, but you feel like there must have been some kind of like screwing up to make sure that it was Russia and Saudi Arabia in the same group, so they could have that as the opening game, because they, you know, if it was Russia versus Uruguay, it would have been a mauling and it would have set the whole tone of the World Cup wrong for them. But so you sort of feel like there must have been some kind of like playing around with it. And also like the two worst human rights abusers at the World Cup playing each other. You know, there's a lot going on in there. But as you say, like within 20 minutes, I was like, yeah, look at great header, great goal, amazing. Here we go.
Because ultimately, it's not really the footballers' fault for all the ills that footballers do.
Harry Kane probably isn't sitting there going, more deportations. Keep Manston Detention Centre in a worse state.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say whether Harry. I mean, as a conflicted Arsenal fan, as you say, I think Harry Kane is a criminal in many ways, but I'll say he's not in favour of Manston Detention Centre, sure. And I think this just goes down part of the sort of the argument of like with Russia again, as to whether they should be allowed into this World Cup or whether Russian players should be allowed at Wimbledon. You are sort of like, well, it isn't their fault, but then equally, as you say, they use it for this, and they're very good at using it as a way of of sports washing and making everyone feel okay with what they're doing. In retrospect, very bad idea to have it in Russia, because looking back on this and seeing lots of cheering Russian fans, it's very strange. It's all very odd. But yeah, again, I watched it and loved it as well, and I hated myself for loving it. And I feel like this World Cup, more than any other, apart from the one that's about to happen, I really feel like it was a bit like, oh, is this all right? I mean, there's you guys have done Argentina 1978, where I think that was quite, and obviously Mussolini in 1934. Like the people use sport for their own ends to get things away quite a lot. But I feel like, I suppose, in the modern era, it's quite odd to look back on this and be like, even 4 years ago, and be like, this is weird. There's a lot that came out of it that I loved, so I can't be too upset.
So Russia beat joint bids from Belgium and the Netherlands, Portugal and Spain, and a solo bid from England to host. The head of the England bid, Lord Treesman, said that 4 FIFA committee members asked for bribes. Jack Warner wanted £2.5 million, and Nicholas Leos, who wanted to be knighted.
I like how he decided that was like a Britain-specific bribe that he wants.
Yeah.
I want a top hat, and I want a red bus, and
Bulldog.
A British bulldog, and I want a dirty, horrible pigeon. I believe those are. That's your thing, isn't it?
If you're going to do bribes, you should go specifically around each country and find the thing that you want.
Jack, what are you getting for a bribe for Netherlands/Belgium? What are you asking for?
I gotta get some tulips, some clogs, a Poirot Toby jug. I'm incredibly easy to buy off. Let's be honest.
At least ask for chocolate and hardcore.
I know. I would be sitting at home with my Poirot Toby jug and going, should have asked for chocolate. Should have asked for chips. Should have asked for chocolate. Oh, I've absolutely screwed this.
In probably the most futile attempt to get anyone to do anything ever, consecutive FA chairmen Greg Dyke and David Bernstein tried to get UEFA to boycott the World Cup in 2018. It's not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. FIFA commission a report called the Garcia Report into allegations of corruption. They never publish it until Bild leak a copy. And the report, would you know, it absolves Russia of any wrongdoing. But
Great
it does
news.
say that Russia hadn't really given them any documents for them to investigate. So based on the nothing we've seen, there's no wrongdoing.
That is actually a really good way to ensure you don't get charged for anything. Just give no evidence. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Also, of course, in 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, which led to many people calling for Russia to have the World Cup taken off them. But Sepp Blatter is having none of it.
Sepp Blatter, usually on the right side of history, so it's quite weird that he's done badly here.
In qualifying, 209 teams go for 31 spaces. Big up to Bhutan, who concede 52 goals in 8 games. Well done, Bhutan. And to Aston Villa's Mila Jedinak, who scores a hat-trick in the Intercontinental Playoff over Honduras, which means Australia qualify.
Does he score both of Australia's goals in these World Cups? Because,
Yeah.
Just because it's penalties.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the hat-trick that he scored against Honduras would have all been penalties.
2 penalties and 1 not.
I love Jedinak, and I'm not going to... he can stop attacks, and he can also take penalties. It feels like he just sort of sits in a deck chair waiting around to then kick penalties in. He's like, there you go, have a penalty. Bring out the Jedinak.
Do you know that the world's richest footballer played in qualifiers for this World Cup? Do you know who that is?
I take it they aren't rich from football.
No, they're not. Unless playing in Southampton's reserves youth squad really pays well.
Oh, God, I don't know. Who is it?
It's Faik Bolkiah, who is one of the crown princes of Brunei.
Oh, my God.
He's the nephew of the Sultan of Brunei and is worth about 44 billion, which must have been interesting when he was playing youth football for Leicester.
Does he just go, I want to play for Leicester? And they say, okay, go play for Leicester.
Apparently he's all right, but like not Premiership standards. So he
Sure.
got through. He got through the youth squads at Leicester, Chelsea, and Southampton, and then now plays. He's captain of a team in Thailand. To be fair, it's what I would do if I was a multi-billionaire. I'd be forcing myself on the squads left, right, and centre.
And I would make a point of not being very good. I would be like, I would be actively bad, and then be like, "What are you going to do? Literally, what are you going to do?" I have £44 billion.
In the other intercontinental playoff, Peru beat New Zealand, so Peru are back at the World Cup for the first time since 1982. The South Africa-Senegal game has to be replayed after the referee, Joseph Lamptey, is alleged to have rigged the game in South Africa's favour. He gave a penalty for no reason, in which case there are about 100 games in World Cup history that need to be replayed. Roman Torres scores with 2 minutes to go to qualify Panama after the USA failed to beat Trinidad and Tobago. And in South America, 5 teams go into the final round of games, going for the final 3 spaces. A Lionel Messi hat-trick gets Argentina over the line, along with Uruguay and Colombia. Sweden knock out the Netherlands in their group and then knock out Italy in the playoffs.
That's high pedigree. Well done, Sweden there.
And do you remember England's qualifying for 2018?
I don't now.
Who was the manager when they started?
Sam Allardyce, I know that.
Yep.
One game, won that,
one
100%
game.
record. How many managers can say that? 100% record. Doing great.
Yeah, it was like a 92nd minute winner, and there was like 94 minutes of a game. So he only actually was winning as England manager for 2 minutes.
Can only enjoy that amount of time.
It's only the time there to sink a pint of wine.
A last-minute winner from Adam Lallana in their first game.
God,
And then
different era.
Allardyce goes, and they bring in this Gareth Southgate, who no one really rates, who starts bringing in all these weird players like Harry Maguire and Kieran Trippier and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and then he leaves out Wayne Rooney and Jack Wilshere, who are going to surely be the ones to take us to World Cup glory. So we say hello to Panama and Iceland, who are the smallest country and only supermarket chain ever to qualify for a World Cup.
And had recently, pluckily, but actually skillfully and well played, got to the semi-finals of quarters.
Quarterfinals.
Quarters of the Euros by beating a dreadful, dreadful England side.
God, that was such a bad England side.
Oh, it was.
God.
We say welcome back to Egypt for the first time since 1990, Morocco for the first time since 1998, and Senegal for the first time since 2002. And for the first time, there are 3 Nordic countries and 4 Arab nations at the World Cup.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
Bit
very
fun.
exciting.
Were Egypt the AFCON champions? Because usually we say, and not here at the World Cup, are the AFCON champions Egypt, because they were always the AFCON champions and then never bothered to turn up.
It was Cameroon who didn't turn up.
So the AFCON champions is cursed.
Wait, is Senegal qualified 2022?
Yeah.
They're the first AFCON champions in about how many years then?
Yeah, probably like 30 odd years.
Sorry, since 2014, Nigeria.
Oh, we had such a lovely thing going that turned out to be completely factually inaccurate.
That is basically my entire life, is trying to find patterns and things and then having someone point out that they're wrong.
Notable absentees, Italy and the Netherlands, both knocked out by Sweden. Chile, the Copa champions, are not there. The CONCACAF champions, United States, are not there. And as we mentioned, the AFCON champions, Cameroon, are not there either.
It's like a who's who of not theirs, really. You could have a great World Cup of just Italy versus America versus Chile. They'd all be actually not that good, to be honest. It'd be quite disappointing, I suppose, thinking about it. There's a reason that the World Cup is the teams that qualify for the World Cup and not bad teams. Carry on.
Italy, Netherlands, Cameroon, Chile would be a hell of a World Cup.
That'd be a group of death, actually, yeah.
The official song of the World Cup is Live It Up by Nicky Jam, featuring Will Smith and Ira Estrefi.
You sent this to me. I have never heard this song in my life. And I don't know how it's possible for a song to be the official World Cup and then to just like disappear into the like Will Smith's in it. Serena and Venus's father. Like
I can't believe you've never heard it, Jack. Don't you know it got to number 1 in Panama?
well, it would, wouldn't it? I mean, in Panama, they're all going World Cup crazy.
It's either that or songs about canals. It's just a nice change for them.
There is no official England song. And I think this is part of a broader theme that no one in England thought anything good was going to come out of this World Cup at all. So they just didn't bother. The only one I've been able to find is Don't Take Me Home by Mr. England.
Don't take me home. Please don't take me home.
It's interesting because sometimes you're like, oh, that England song, the official England song is so bad. How could they release it? And then what you realize is that if you don't release an official England song, something worse will fill the gap. And that is something worse because it is dreadful.
It's not even Lads Baby quality.
Who or what was Zabivaka?
I'm going to guess that is the Russians' official song.
No,
I'm gonna guess mascot.
it was the mascot, Jack. Yes. Do you remember Zabivaka? What it was?
I don't know, but I really hope it's a babushka. Like you can take off bits of them, and then like you get to the bottom, and it's Putin.
The smaller mascots.
Yeah, within the body.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it would work, and I think it would be a genetic miracle.
That would be a great idea for a bit of merch that they missed in 2018. Have like the biggest mascot based on what would be biggest in real life as the outside, and then slowly all the way down until you get to PK, the jalapeno pepper in the middle. Zabivaka was a Eurasian wolf in orange goggles a la Edgar Davids. It won an internet vote to be the Russian mascot, beating tiger and cat.
It wasn't an open vote. It wasn't football face.
No, I think it was a closed vote, and one of the people wanted a bribe off of Tiger. They wanted to be knighted by Tiger.
So for the first time ever at this World Cup, there's going to be VAR.
And that'll just fix loads of the problems that we had in previous World Cups with obvious goals being ruled out.
I'm going to say something that will shock you right now. I think VAR in this World Cup was brilliant. I think it was so good.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
To be fair, I am quite a VAR apologist. I think it works more times than it doesn't.
I think it does work, and I think there were actually quite a lot of things that were missed in this World Cup that would have been missed if it wasn't for VAR. So, like for instance, there's a goal. We're probably going to talk about it. I think it's Umtiti for France does a really blatant handball that the referee doesn't see, and then VAR calls them over, and then Australia get a penalty that they wouldn't have got otherwise. So you know what? I'm pro VAR. I'm nothing bad has ever come out of VAR. VAR is great.
I was VAR skeptical before I started doing this podcast and started watching all the massive injustices that have ever happened in the World Cup. And now I'm like, we need it. I mean, it's not being used properly.
That's the thing. It's not being used properly. But in this World Cup in particular, there were so many bits where I was like, well, that country would have been absolutely screwed if they hadn't seen if there wasn't another referee to look at it. But you basically just need good people on it. But this is my VAR rant over. Also because as soon as VAR came into the World Cup, I did an article for The Guardian saying that I think VAR is brilliant, and people often then show me that whenever VAR is used badly, and they're like, "Is it still brilliant, Jack?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is. It's just being used wrong." So I will defend VAR to the hilt.
Also, for the first time, in extra time only, teams are allowed to make a fourth substitution. 17.5% of the players playing in this World Cup play in England. And half the players either play in England, Spain, Germany, Italy, or France.
Okay, is that usual?
That's the highest that's ever been.
Right, okay, I was going to say.
And you now don't get the thing of, here's a completely unknown player to us.
50% of players playing outside of the big leagues, I suppose, means you're going to get a few. But the exciting thing about old World Cups, I'm sure, was this idea of like, oh, wow, I've suddenly seen this player who plays for Brazil, and they're the best player in the world, and I've never heard of them. Whereas now, obviously, everyone knows who Neymar is.
Everyone knows his Neymar. Manchester City have 16 players at this World Cup, which equals the record. I'll give you £1 million if you can tell me, without looking up, who that record was equaled with.
What year was the record?
No, can I guess quickly? I'm going to guess it's whoever would have been Hungarian champions in about 1954.
I mean, you've got the year right.
Oh, I'm going to guess it's the USSR team of 1954 then, that it was just the
one team.
No.
Okay, well, if 1954... Oh, God, I really want to get this right. Screw it. Sporting Lisbon.
No, it's the Seoul Army Club.
1954, there was a Seoul Army Club. Isn't that bang in the middle of the Korean War?
It was just after.
Just after?
Yeah.
They needed something to keep their pals around, like reminisce.
That war was fun. Do you guys want to go over to a World Cup together? Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Hang out, have pints.
So, as you've pointed out, Jack, there were lots of concerns about Russia hosting this World Cup. There were concerns about racism, but Vyacheslav Koloskov, a member of the Russian bid team and former vice president of FIFA, said that monkey chanting was not racist. So that's fine then.
It feels like a very Russian move. Instead of saying that thing that you think is happening isn't happening, to just go, that thing that you think is happening isn't bad. Like, it's a bit like not giving any evidence to the inquiry, really.
Also, just before the World Cup, Peter Tatchell was detained in Moscow by local police while staging a protest against the treatment of the Russian LGBT plus community, a thing he's done again in Qatar. Do you remember in March 2018 what happened in Salisbury?
Yes, two tourists went and had a lovely time to look at the Salisbury Tower, and nothing bad happened after that. Yeah, it was the Novichok, wasn't it?
Yes, the former spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury had been poisoned. The British government announced that after that, all official visits to the World Cup were suspended. No politicians, no royals. In fact, one British government official accused the Russian government of planning to use its hosting of the World Cup for propaganda, comparing it to Nazi Germany's use of the 1936 Olympics in Berlin.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
So you agree with that British government official who said about...
Oh no, are you going to say it was the most racist official in the world?
It was then Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson.
Oh, the thing is, stop clock right twice a day, so I'm fine with that. Like, there are times where it's very obvious that history is going to judge you for doing these things, and I think even Boris was aware of that.
Russia hit back at Johnson by saying his statements were unacceptable and totally irresponsible and poisoned with the venom of hate and professionalism and boorishness. Now who are your sympathies with?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? When you were watching the World Cup, were you like, okay, I should do something to sort of offset my feelings about this? Because I have a friend of mine, like, we both gave money to, like, for every goal we gave money to the Rainbow Road, which is a kind of a group helping gay people being persecuted in Chechnya. And I thought that would do it, but it didn't really. As in, I was like, this is really good. I'm giving, it was, because it was a really, like, loads of goals this World Cup. So I was really happy with it. But then the guilt's still there. It's hard. Once the World Cup is over, you're still like, shouldn't have enjoyed that.
Burger King said in an advert that they would pay $47,000 plus a lifetime supply of Whoppers to any Russian woman if they got pregnant with a child fathered by a World Cup player.
What? When was this World Cup again?
I presume this is Russian Burger King, not Burger King worldwide.
Burger Czar.
That was such a PR move, disaster, that they then had to quit Russia 4 years later. Bizarre, yeah. God, that's mad. Did they not get any... Did they have to pay out to anyone?
No, they pulled the ad and apologised.
Oh, that's
Pretty soon after. 2 days before the World Cup starts and 3 days before their first game, Spanish coach Julian Lopetegui announces that after the World Cup, he's going to join Real Madrid as coach.
I completely forgot about that. Oh my God, that was bonkers.
Because I seem to remember in 1990, we all knew Bobby Robson was going to PSV afterwards.
Well, PSV's very different to going to Real Madrid. If you're the Spain is the whole team is basically half Barcelona, half Real Madrid. If you're able to get those two to merge together and play well together, then you're a genius. But if you turn up and go, oh, by the way, I'm going to go off to Real Madrid at the end of this tournament, I think rightfully a lot of Barcelona players would be like, what? I feel like if you go to a foreign club, it wouldn't be nearly as big a problem. I mean, it was also bonkers because didn't he get the sack during the World Cup?
He got sacked the next day.
Next day, yeah. And who took over? I can't remember who took over.
Fernando Hierro.
Oh, yeah. Well, glad there was no Real Madrid connection there. Oh, I do think it is odd that you would think that wouldn't be a problem. Surely you'd just be like aware of all the disaster that would then come from it. It's funny also that he then had a terrible time at Real Madrid. Like he then quit after 5 months, didn't he, or something?
No, he was sacked in October.
Oh, that's so funny. God, what career.
What a year that is in your life. Yeah. Guys, I'm taking the team to the World Cup and I'm getting to be managing. I'm not doing that. Oh, well, at least I get to enjoy. Oh.
The opening ceremony featured a speech from Vladimir Putin and 2 songs from Robbie Williams. Which is worse?
Were any of the songs sort of Russian themed? No. Let Me Detain You.
Oh, very good.
Well
done.
Very good.
Engels. Where had the match ball been a month before the World Cup started?
In the Champions League final? They've done something
No.
mad like that?
Madder.
Space.
Yes.
Oh wow! Okay. That was a complete guess.
It had been apparently it'd been on the ISS a month before. I don't know what they do. Drop it out of a window? How does it get back?
You guys have that? You want your ball back?
A ball can go to and from space, and yet my neighbour, when I was a kid, couldn't take it back out of a bush. Ridiculous.
Well, you know, your neighbour arguably didn't have the force of the Russian Space Agency behind it.
You don't know. You don't know that.
That'd be hilarious if you're just asking for 3 tennis balls backed with a Kalashnikov.
Group A: Egypt, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. And as we mentioned, the opening game, Russia, Saudi Arabia. Yuri Gazinski scores the opening goal of the World Cup. His only international goal.
If you're going to have one, make it that.
Russia win the game 5-0. 2 of the goals coming in injury time. It is the biggest victory in a standalone opening match and the second biggest opening match victory after Italy 7, USA 1 in 1934.
And that's also another World Cup that's rigged by a dictator. So interesting combinations that are going on there.
Denis Cheryshev, who's one of those players that no one had heard of before this World Cup. He scores twice after coming on as a sub, which means he is the first substitute to score in an opening game. And Ardem Zubia becomes the second sub to score in an opening game about half an hour later. I was really excited about the second game of this World Cup because it was Egypt against Uruguay, and it promised a lot. It promised Suarez against Mo Salah, but Mo Salah is on the bench on his birthday because he's injured.
I forgot because he was injured in the Champions League final, no less.
And the game is rubbish, and it looks like it's going to be 0-0, but Uruguay score in the last minute to win. Mo Salah does come back and score against Russia, but they lose 3-1. Mo Salah's one of the nicest men in the world, isn't he?
Yeah.
It did feel like if Mo Salah's having a bad World Cup, therefore this World Cup is evil. If Mo Salah's having a bad time, then no one should have a good time. That's how I feel about this World Cup.
Mo Salah has a child that was born exactly 9 months after Liverpool's win in the Champions League final. So does Jordan Henderson.
And I know a few things about human biology.
Mo Salah apparently got over 1 million write-in votes in the 2018 Egyptian presidential election. But it means Russia have qualified for the knockouts for the first time, if you don't count the USSR.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't really count. Unding that bell.
Well, in those days, they had loads of Ukrainian players in the team.
Oh, okay. No, reading it.
I want to give a shout out to Ardem Zubia's goal in this game, which is almost Bergkamp-esque.
It's a very good goal. He takes it down. He puts it through a player. There's the tiniest deflection. And that, I think, means that it can't count. It can't count as an iconic goal. And that's so unfair. But I'm sorry, Zubia.
Luis Suarez becomes the first Uruguayan to score at 3 World Cups as they beat Saudi Arabia 1-0. And the group is basically over at that point. There's just dead rubbers. Uruguay beat Russia 3-0, and despite Egypt leading for the first time ever in a World Cup game, they concede goals in the 6th minute of stoppage time in the first half and the 5th minute of stoppage time in the second half to lose 2-1 to Saudi Arabia.
Losing to Saudi Arabia, jeepers.
Egypt had started SM El Hadari in goal, who at 45 years and 161 days is the oldest ever player to play at a World Cup, which coincidentally is the exact age that I will be on the day of the 2022 World Cup final.
Oh, wow! So you're saying there's a chance you can get called up?
Yes. Group B: Iran, Morocco, Spain, and the European champions Portugal.
Portugal, Spain, in previous years, have thrown out really interesting games that then turn out to be really dull.
That's very true. Like, you'd often be like, oh, I'm really excited about that. I'd completely written off Spain, Portugal being exciting because of how rubbish it had been in previous World Cups. The one in 2010, I think, was dreadful. Oh, God. Yeah. But yeah, it was a cracker.
Iran become the first team since records began to score a goal in a half of a World Cup game without attempting a shot.
That's a great fact.
As is Bouadouz puts it into his own net in the 5th minute of stoppage time.
That's grim. And also, that's the second last-minute goal to win a game in the first 3 matches.
In that game, Sofyan Amrabat becomes the first player to come on as a sub for his own brother.
Ooh.
Oh, that's cool.
Nordin Amrabat. Yeah, Portugal-Spain. Let's talk about that. It's a brilliant game. Nacho, who has type 1 diabetes and is basically the Spanish Gary Mabbott.
Therefore, not able to eat many nachos because it would spike his blood sugar.
Ironic.
He fouls Cristiano Ronaldo after 4 minutes, and Ronaldo scores the penalty. That goal is scored by the youngest player to score a goal for Portugal in this World Cup. Diego Costa equalises with the first goal at a World Cup ever referred to VAR.
He's a mad bastard.
Was it for offside, that one?
It's because he pushes Pepe in the face.
Right. Okay.
But they looked at it and went, no, it's funny.
No, it's Pepe. It's fine.
It's Pepe. He deserves it.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Pepe.
Yeah. There are 5 Portuguese defenders around Diego Costa when he gets his shot away to equalise.
Oh.
So that's pretty impressive. Then just before half-time, David De Gea just fumbles a Ronaldo shot to give Portugal the lead.
That is such a funny goal. Oh, God, it's such a terrible... David De Gea, awful. Absolutely dreadful mistake.
But Diego Costa re-equalises, and then Nacho, who'd given away the penalty, scores an incredible volley, which goes in off both posts.
Genuinely one of my favourite goals of the World Cup. Oh, it's such a good goal. I made a ridiculous noise when it went in. I was like, whoa!
Oh, what a shot that is! Nacho, the man who gave away the penalty, has redeemed himself in style.
With 2 minutes to go, Cristiano Ronaldo wins a free kick outside the box in what commentators would refer to as Ronaldo territory, because that's where he likes to pee before the game. And everyone in the world goes, well, he'll score this, obviously. And of course he does.
It's bonkers because he doesn't score many free kicks in major tournaments. It's just this one, I think. When the minute happens, you are like, well, he's going to score this. And I had no idea why I thought he was going to score it, because logically he wasn't, really. There's no real reason you would think he would, because he's screwed up a lot previously. And he then went on, in 2021, he tries so many free kicks and they all go terribly wrong for Portugal.
There's nothing I enjoy more than Ronaldo doing his routine where he centers himself and puts his little shorts, pulls them up a bit and gets himself into his zone and then just blazes it into row Z. I think that's hilarious.
And then looks furious at another player.
Oh, come on, guys.
Why? Why'd you let that happen?
Help me out here.
He is the oldest player to score a World Cup hat-trick. He was 33 at the time. He also scores after 4 minutes against Morocco, and it's the only goal of the game as Morocco are knocked out. And that means that Ronaldo has scored Portugal's last 5 goals at a World Cup. He's the first player to do it since who?
I'm going to say it's the man who's Russian Golden Boot winner at USA 94.
Oleg Salenko.
Yes.
Is the right answer. Well done.
Yes.
And Diego Costa gets the only goal as Spain beat Iran. Iran can sort of still qualify if they beat Portugal, but Ricardo Quaresma scores as Portugal draw 1-1 with them. Quaresma has 2 teardrops tattooed on his face.
Because he's murdered twice in prison?
I guess.
Presumably. Karim Adil Ansarifad gets the equaliser in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. It is Iran's best World Cup, although they are out.
One of the Iranian players tries to do a throw-in where he does a flip and he completely screws it up. They are trying to get the equalizer and they've got 20 minutes to go and Iran going, come on, you can do it. And he's like, I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to do it. And he completely misses and falls on the floor. And it's brilliant. It's so funny, but also I feel bad making fun of them because, they're minnows and they're playing against Portugal. And they do really well against Portugal, to be fair. I was surprised by how good those final games were.
Yes, Morocco lead twice against Spain in a 2-2 draw. Khalid Boutaib scores for Morocco. He is Nasser Chadli's uncle.
Wow, that's really cool.
The Iran squad featured Milad Mohammadi, who is nicknamed Mig Mig, because that is what the cartoon character Roadrunner is called in Iran.
Beep, beep.
And their forward Sardar Azmouri, nicknamed the Iranian Messi. While he was at Ruben Kazan, he wore the squad number 69 in honour of his hometown's vehicle registration plate and for no other reason.
Sure.
Also, just coincidentally, he owns a women's volleyball team.
Oh no, I'm suddenly doubting his story.
Group C, the Asian champions Australia, Denmark, France and Peru.
Yeah, there was real hype going into Peru-Denmark for it being the hipster's choice, and then it was a dull.
Very dull.
Denmark win that game 1-0. Antoine Griezmann wins and converts the first ever penalty to be given by VAR at a World Cup. But 4 minutes later, Mili Jedinak of Aston Villa equalises from the penalty spot also. And with 10 minutes to go, Paul Pogba's lob deflects in off Aziz Behic, and it is given by goal line technology.
So that's all 3 goals helped by VAR or goal line technology.
Yeah, in the old days, that game would have been 0-0.
It would have been 0-0, and there would have been a riot afterwards.
Mili Jedinak also scores a penalty in a 1-1 draw with Denmark, meaning Australia's last 3 World Cup goals have all been penalties.
Strong, guys, real strong.
Kylian Mbappe scores the only goal as France beat Peru, and after a 36-year wait, Peru are already out.
They didn't do a lot in this World Cup.
Mbappe is the first World Cup goal scorer to be born after France's first World Cup triumph in 1998.
Oh, that's a great fact. Oh my God, I feel so old.
Yeah. My bones just hurt thinking about that.
But Mbappe's goal, really, it was going in. It was Giroud.
I mean, don't get started Giroud and Mbappe rivalry. I mean, jeepers. But yeah, like it definitely. This feels like they're papering over the cracks of the rivalry that will come later. But
I mean, that French side for about a decade is mental. Of just going, should we have like this things that you would throw out of a soap opera for being too
weird? Yeah,
too weird. No, that's not. It's not believable.
I'm excited for 2022. Exactly. I really can't wait. I'll be sitting there with my popcorn, being like, "Here we go, guys. What are you going to do this time?"
Because of course Benzema's not in this squad.
Because he's in jail for crime.
He's not in jail. He doesn't get the suspended sentence until after this World Cup.
Wow.
Australia can qualify if they beat Peru and France beat Denmark, but France versus Denmark is the only 0-0 draw at this World Cup. Bearing in mind that at the previous 3 World Cups, there had been 7 0-0s.
This is VAR though as well. VAR's doing a lot of this because a lot of penalties.
Peru finally get their first goal since 1982 and their first win since 1978 with a 2-0 win over Australia. Their second goal is scored by 34-year-old Paulo Guerrero, who was in the middle of a 14-month ban for cocaine, which the Swiss Federal Tribunal had temporarily lifted.
The more you hear about this World Cup, the more it really warms your heart, doesn't it?
A kilo? 2 kilos? What's going to make this go away?
The Peru squad features Jefferson Farfan. In 2007, he was suspended from international football for going to nightclubs days before games. In 2001, he was suspended for breaking curfew to go to a casino. And in 2019, he was suspended for going to a disco party during a training camp.
The guy just loves to dance.
He misses their final game against Australia here because he clashed heads in training.
Oh,
I wish it had been disco related, but it wasn't.
Maybe he was trying to do like a samba or something and he headbutted someone by accident. You don't know.
Group D, Argentina, Croatia, Iceland and Nigeria. Argentina and Nigeria are drawn in the same group for the 3rd consecutive World Cup and the 5th time overall.
What's going on there?
They just love each other.
Lionel Messi has a penalty saved in a 1-1 draw with Iceland. Hannes Haldarsson saves it. He directs the video for Iceland's 2012 Eurovision entry.
Never forget what I did, what I said, when I gave you all my heart and soul.
A 2018 World Cup advert for Coca-Cola, and would go on to direct the movie Cop Secret, released in 2021. It came second in Iceland's box office chart to No Time to Die and has an IMDb rating of 6.5.
Because the country is so small.
I was going to say, like, there are only like 5 people in Iceland, surely.
Yeah. Well, there's so few people that they have to have an app that when you pull on a night out tells you if you are related, because there's a real risk of genetic deformation.
There are some provincial towns in the UK that could do with that app. Croatia win all their games. Against Argentina, Willy Caballero fannies around and just gives the ball away.
They fell apart at the back, but they were punished in stunning fashion. And now Argentina are staring at major problems.
That's a really underrated goal because Caballero does just like chip the ball into the air for no reason, like he's pressed the wrong button in FIFA. It's legitimately one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But then also the shot, but I can't remember who scores the goal. But
Anti-Rebic.
It's a really good goal. Like it even though Caballero has made that mistake, it's such a good goal. And then Modric scores an amazing goal after that. That was probably the first game that I watched, and I was like, oh, okay, this might be a good World Cup.
It was the first time Croatia had beaten a South American team at a World Cup, as they win 3-0. Against Nigeria, Nikola Kalinic refuses to come on as a substitute because of having a bad back, so he's sent home.
Oh,
well, what's he going to miss out on?
Yeah. Don't worry about it, guys. I'm sure there's nothing going to happen that will be very exciting for Croatia in this World Cup.
You've already paid for the hotel. Just let him.
Can't have that kind of nonsense. Ooh, I've got a bad back. Get on the pitch, will you?
Yeah.
At 19 years old, Nigerian goalkeeper Francis Uzoha is the youngest goalkeeper ever to keep a clean sheet at a World Cup as they beat Iceland 2-0. Lionel Messi's opener in a 2-1 win over Nigeria is the 100th goal of the World Cup, and Messi becomes the first player to have scored at a World Cup in their teens, 20s and 30s.
That's a great fact. That goal also is pretty underrated, I'd say. It's one of those goals where you watch it the first time and you go, it's okay. But he it's Messi. It's a really, because he just cushions it with his thigh and then just, it's a gorgeous goal. Again, lots of underrated goals in this World Cup. Loved it.
Marcus Rojo scores a winner against Nigeria for the second consecutive World Cup, and Argentina qualify for the second round.
They were minutes away from going home.
I was sort of hoping they wouldn't go through, but then I'm glad they did, because it is an exciting game coming up that is very important for them to be there for. Very exciting final group games in this World Cup as well, and that was one of them.
Alex Iwobi features for Nigeria. He is the nephew of JJ Okocha. The Iceland squad is coached by Heimir Hallgrimsson, who is a dentist.
Yes.
Well, they have to, like you say, they got to double up with jobs here. They got film directors, they got dentists, and not enough people in Iceland for all these things.
Their winger Albert Gudmundsson, whose great-grandfather, who was also called Albert Gudmundsson, was Iceland's first ever professional footballer and Minister of Finance. 4 generations of his family have played and scored for Iceland.
God.
Rúel Gíslason, their midfielder, had been a candidate in the Icelandic elections in 2016 and 2017, and he has 3 times as many Instagram followers as Iceland has people.
Again, that's like 15, so it's not that impressive.
And he's also in the movie Cop Secret, which I really want to watch now.
We've got to watch that.
I'm really intrigued about what the secret is.
The secret is that they're all related.
They didn't use the app. No.
Yeah.
Their sub-goalkeeper, Fredrik Schramm, what's unique about him in the Iceland squad?
Wasn't born in Iceland?
Nope.
That he didn't have an extra job.
I mean, I don't know. I've given you all the information you need to solve that riddle.
Schramm. Fredrik Schramm.
Oh, he's the only one that's not named Son.
Yeah, he's the only one whose name doesn't end in son. Group A, Brazil, Costa Rica, Serbia and Switzerland. Alexander Kolarov scores from a free kick, the third of the tournament, which equals the amount in 2014 as Serbia beat Costa Rica. Alexander Kolarov once did a Christmas video for Manchester City where he recites the words of Jingle Bells in a deadpan voice.
Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh.
I've seen that video. It's like he's a serial killer. Like the type of thing that they would say, we found this note by the body. The words, the Jingle Bells.
VAR disallows a Swiss goal and denies Brazil a penalty in a 1-1 draw. It then takes Brazil 91 minutes to break down Costa Rica before Coutinho scores. Neymar adds a second in the 97th minute.
Wow.
Which is the latest ever World Cup goal in regulation time.
I forgot that was so late. And they would have been in trouble if they'd drawn that one. Jeepers.
Yeah, well, they'd have had 2 draws going into their final group game against Serbia. And Alexander Mitrovic had given Serbia an early lead against the Swiss before a second-half equaliser from Granit Xhaka.
Always scoring wonder goals for Switzerland, and it's only just started scoring wonder goals for Arsenal.
There was a bit where Xhaka was playing against Liverpool when they had Emre Can. It is the only time that I've wanted them to have a fight purely for the Xhaka Can headline that could be created.
Chaka Khan.
Well, there's Xhaka, and there's also Xhaka, Saka, Laka. Arsenal for a while exclusively bought players who nicknamed Aka, which is when Patterson Daka for Leicester was signed for Leicester. I was really annoyed because I was like, that would have been perfect, guys.
No.
Daka.
And then Arsenal went in for Macca from In the Night Garden.
Liverpool had one where they had Gini Wijnaldum, Taki Minamino, Mane, and Mo Salah, which was Gini Mini Mane Mo.
When you lot beat us in the cup final that time, your team featured Laurent Koscielny, Santi Cazorla, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Xherdan Shaqiri scores the winner. Both Xhaka and Shaqiri have a controversial celebration. What do?
They do the eagle, the Albanian eagle, don't they?
That's right.
Which is a reference, I suppose, to the Albanian-Serbian conflict. Which it was very controversial, but also, there's a lot going on there. I don't feel qualified enough to say any more.
Yes, both are of Kosovar Albanian heritage, so they were in support of Albanian nationalism. Each were fined 10,000 Swiss francs for the celebrations. But this was covered by a crowdfunding in Albania. Some Serbia fans at this game were wearing T-shirts with pictures of Ratko Mladic, the war criminal.
Again, this is such a great World Cup, isn't it, guys? So just love and peace being spread everywhere.
Brazil beat Serbia 2-0, qualifying from the groups for the 13th consecutive World Cup and winning the group as they have done at every World Cup since 1982.
There was a goal from Thiago Silva, who's got a song named after him by Dave.
I want you raps, you don't give hat. Thiago Silva, man, blocked then ski.
The Swiss joined them in the second round after a 2-2 draw with Costa Rica. When Kendall Waston scores for Costa Rica, it is their first World Cup goal for 424 minutes. They are the last country to score at the 2018 World Cup. And in the third added minute, Joel Campbell takes a penalty that hits the bar, hits the back of Jan Sommer's head and goes in. Group F, the holders and Confederation Cup winners, Germany, who won the Confederations Cup with a B team.
Wow.
Mexico, South Korea and Sweden. And for the third consecutive World Cup, the holders lose their opening game as Mexico beat Germany 1-0.
It was funny.
It was funny, but also bonkers. Like, why does this keep happening?
I haven't really done the stats to back this up, but certainly with Spain in 2014, is there a thing of teams sticking with the team that won the World Cup and not refreshing it, and the team is slightly past it?
Maybe. I mean, it's still unlikely because especially this Germany team, they were quite young in 2014, weren't they? It's still a good side and they've got lots of depth. I just find it amazing because it's both the third consecutive time that the team who won loses their first match. It's also the third consecutive time that they don't get out of the groups, isn't it?
Yes, and the fourth in 5 World Cups.
Bonkers. I just find it so weird that teams, and it looks, we'll see how France do, but France traditionally have a terrible World Cup if it's outside of Europe. So, we'll see. But I don't understand it, James, and I want to know more about why it happens.
Well, because I noticed before the 2018 World Cup, Italy and Spain both went out in the first round, but Germany won't. They're Germany. They're really good. And then it just all fell apart. Herving Lozano scored the goal for Mexico. He's nicknamed Chucky after the doll from the Child's Play movies.
Right.
Because he used to hide under his teammates' beds and scare them.
There are so many ways I thought I was going to go, and that wasn't the way I did. I thought it would.
I just assumed he was going to be a ginger, but ginger in Mexico is probably, that lasts a week.
That sounds like a Graham Greene spy novel.
A ginger in Mexico.
Lozano would become the most expensive Mexican when he goes from PSV to Napoli for €42 million. It is the first time Germany have lost to a CONCACAF nation at the World Cup, and Rafa Marquez is playing in his 5th World Cup, tying with the Mexican Antonio Carvajal and the German Lothar Matthäus.
Nice symmetry.
Andreas Granqvist, whose name literally translates as spruce twig, scores a penalty to give Sweden a 1-0 win over South Korea. His second child is born the day before their quarterfinal with England.
A little mini spruce twig coming into the world. That's sweet.
Yeah. We just have to work out what happened 9 months before. Chicharito scores for the 3rd World Cup as Mexico beats South Korea 2-1 and qualify. Germany need a 95th minute winner from Toni Kroos, the latest winning goal in World Cup history, as they come from behind to beat Sweden. I remember watching that game and Sweden went 1-0 up and it was just like brilliant. And then Germany came back and you thought, and now they're going to win the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was also because they came back so quickly. When Royce scored in the first few minutes of the second half, I was like, okay, now it'll be like 4-1 and that'll be fine. But it took so long for them to get that winning goal that I was like, maybe it won't happen. And then it did. And then, it's a really good goal. Really good goal from Toni Kroos.
It is the first time Germany have overturned a half-time deficit at a World Cup since 1974 when they did it against Sweden.
Oh.
And this is the first time Sweden have lost a World Cup group game for 28 years.
That's bonkers.
That's a long time.
That's a long time for Sweden.
Germany's first goal scored by Marco Reus, who is named after...
Marco Pierre White.
Marco Polo.
No. He's
Marco van Basten.
Marco van Basten.
Very good.
And in 2014, he was fined €540,000 for driving with a fake Dutch driving licence. So Germany must win to qualify, but South Korea can also qualify if they win by 2 and Mexico beat Sweden. The Germany-South Korea game is 0-0 until the 94th minute.
Bouncing around dangerously, and South Korea have scored! Can you believe it? Germany are going out of this World Cup. Kim Jong-kwon.
They both had to win. So it was just like, no defending, all out attack versus all out attack. It was great.
Inexplicably was 0-0 for like all that time.
I listened to this commentary in a car park of Wicks and celebrated like an absolute madman.
I was doing some writing with Gronja Maguire, who's a comedian and is not particularly into football. And we were just midway through like chatting, and I suddenly went, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" and just like had to go under the table because I was so amazed at what was going on.
South Korea scored twice in quick succession in injury time. The second one, after Manuel Neuer has just gone walkabout, the South Korean player hoofs it up the pitch, and it looks like it's going to go wide, but Son Heung-min absolutely legs it so that he can get there just in time to steer it into the net.
It's one of the most satisfying goals ever, I would say.
So South Korea have done what they needed to do, which was win 2-0. They just have to hope Mexico beat Sweden, and of course Sweden win 3-0.
Because Mexico aren't that bothered, though. They're like, it's fine.
Yeah, they're already through, which means Sweden go through as well. In this game, Jesus Gallardo is booked after 15 seconds, the fastest ever World Cup booking. And South Korea are out, equaling Scotland's record for 8 first-round eliminations. And for the first time in World Cup history, Germany have not got through the groups. It is the first time since 1938 that they haven't got past the first round, and the first time since 1938 that they haven't finished in the top 8.
That's incredible. It's sort of seismic, and you're right. It was when you sort of look back and go like, well, Germany are going to get through, obviously, but they may not do that well. But it was huge when they didn't get through. Oh, my God.
It was so funny as well.
There's nothing funnier than seeing Manuel Neuer just inexplicably by the other team's penalty area and the ball got hoofed away from him. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe what this is happening.
It is the first time Germany have lost to an Asian nation at the World Cup. It is the first time they finished bottom of the group, and since 2000, all European winners of the World Cup have crashed out in the first round of their next World Cup. The Germany squad featured Marvin Plattenhardt. It's got a fun name.
Sometimes the stats, sometimes the fun names.
And the South Korean goalkeeper, Jo Hyun-woo, who this year was featured in a reality TV show about the relationship between fathers-in-law and sons-in-law. That's the premise of the reality TV show. What do you think it's called?
My father-in-law, when he goes, I'm not saying he's fat, but when he goes around the house, he goes around the house.
No, it's not, sadly.
I couldn't begin to guess.
It is, of course, called Daughter Thieves.
Well, that's a Doctor Who villain. Come on.
Group G, Belgium, England, Panama, and Tunisia. I mean, in hindsight, of course England were going to get through this group.
You couldn't, but then, we thought that in 2014. Well, did we think that in 2014? Probably not. But yeah, I don't know. England are very good at doing badly in these kinds of groups.
Panama hold out for 47 minutes before Belgium beat them 3-0. The youngest captain at the World Cup, Harry Kane, scores after 11 minutes for England. in the game against Tunisia. What's your memory of this game?
A lot of lag. I remember that because I was following it on Twitter and I was also had it on iPlayer. So I would find out about things and I would get on like little things, someone going like, oh God, or why has that happened? And I'd be like, oh, we're going to have to see that in like 20 minutes time. That was how bad the lag was for me.
I also had a lot of lag because I was watching it on a boat. And yeah, we went mad when it went in, which is really difficult to do inside a narrow boat. But yeah, it was never in doubt. I had complete faith in the lads all the way through. From when Tunisia equalised in the 35th minute to the 91st minute, I was definitely sure England were going to score.
My eldest, who was 10 at this time, wanted to watch the game with me. And so Harry Kane scores and we're all very happy. And then Kyle Walker gives away that penalty and Tunisia equalise. And I've had a drink. So I go into this whole thing about, look, if you're going to watch England, this is what happens. This is what happens, right? We have bits of joy, but mostly it's awful and terrible. And I remember my reaction to Harry Kane scoring the winner was to shout out, Harry Kane, you f***ing hero.
Trippier's out, swinger. Maguire, Kane has stolen it at the death. That's what he's there for. A pile of English joy.
That goal is a weird one though as well because he's sort of like the ball comes right to him. He does a kind of like a over the top like thunk header. It's very weird.
He gives it full neck.
Full neck, so much neck on it. I'd accepted they weren't going to score. I was very much in the mind of, when England played Russia in 2016, I was like, oh, that's happening. That's happening now where England dominate and then concede a stupid goal. But that's what we're doing now. But yeah, they did well.
And it is the first time England have scored 2 goals in a World Cup game since 2006.
Bloody hell. That is a terrible stat.
Isn't it? Romelu Lukaku becomes the first player to score back-to-back braces since Diego Maradona in 1986 in a 5-2 win over Tunisia. And then with 2 penalties, Harry Kane becomes the first player to score back-to-back braces since Romelu Lukaku.
That's good.
Romelu Lukaku is the most cumulatively expensive player in football history, going for transfer fees totaling £285 million. So yes, Harry Kane scores 2 penalties against Panama, and then he gets his hat-trick.
I'm not sure this is a hat-trick. I know it counts as a hat-trick. I'm not sure it could be counted as a hat-trick. I think some of these are minus goals.
So Ruben Loftus-Cheek has the shot, and it rebounds in off Harry Kane's heel.
And he's like, I meant that.
Yep.
Played for and got.
Do you know who Ruben Loftus-Cheek's half-brother is?
Oh, is it something mad like Oxlade-Chamberlain?
No, it's Carl Court.
Carl Court?
Oh.
That's something I haven't heard in a while.
That is mad.
Also scoring 2 goals in this game, John Stones, nicknamed Paint Trophy. But only by me.
We can get it going.
Jesse Lingard, who scores the best of the 6, doesn't he?
That's a really good goal. It was the beginning of what I thought was going to be the Lingard renaissance, but never happened. But God, it's a great goal.
He's the cousin of England women's international Gabby George.
And Panama gets a goal.
37-year-old Philippe Balloy gets a consolation and becomes the only Panamanian to have scored a World Cup goal.
They celebrated it like there was a winner, though.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we scored a goal, yeah.
They drew the second half, 1-1.
Yeah. Poor England.
I'm not a fan of a team being 5-0 up at halftime and then stopping.
Yeah, I agree.
I want, if it's 5-0 at halftime, then it must be 10-0 at full time.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed if it isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
Which means Belgium and England have qualified, and so they will just play off to see who comes first and who comes second. And there's a whole thing about one half of the draw being easier than the other. And to be in that half, you lose the game against Belgium, which England conveniently do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't buy it personally because I think England can make hard work of any team. And so I feel like we were going to lose to Belgium anyway. This idea that was like, oh, we threw that one actually, so we'd play against Colombia. I mean, England very nearly don't beat Colombia, so,
Both teams put out their B teams.
Oh, interesting. But I think that's also a sort of because they both know that there's also a desire to sort of give to blood a couple of other players. I think that's okay.
Yeah. Do bear in mind that England's B team included Phil Jones.
Okay, no, you're right. It was a scam. It was rigged.
Belgium have 11 English-based players in their squad. After Adnan Januzaj scores the only goal, Michy Batshuayi picks up the ball in the net and sort of drop kicks it out of, I don't know, sheer elation. It hits the post and rebounds and hits him right in the face.
Comedy gold.
Oh, God, I've forgotten that. That's stupid and brilliant.
So arguably, England have lost, but have they won?
Ooh.
Because they're in the more favourable half of the draw. Tunisia win their first World Cup match for 40 years as they come from behind to beat Panama 2-1. Panama's goal, which is an own goal by Yassine Merea, the 50th own goal in World Cup history, means that every team at this World Cup has scored at least 2 goals.
Wow.
Everyone gets a medal. The Panamanian squad featured Harold Cummings, had once played for the Bolivian team Always Ready. Group H, Colombia, Japan, Poland and Senegal. Who were the seeds in this group?
Not a clue. Poland?
Ooh,
Yes,
Senegal,
Poland.
maybe?
Ah.
Oh, really?
Poland were
Wow.
the 6th seed at this World Cup. In their first game, Brazilian-born Thiago Gionek scores an own goal and Senegal win 2-1. French-born Mbaye Niang scores the winner. So the Senegal's goals have been scored by a Polish player who was born in Brazil and a Senegalese player who was born in France. In the other opening game, Carlos Sanchez, formerly of Aston Villa, is sent off after 4 minutes for handball.
That is a grim way to go out.
Only 4 players are sent off in this entire World Cup, and that's one of them.
Do you know why? VAR is genuinely, I think, one of the reasons. Because
Yeah, David Ellery said it's because the players know they can't get away with it.
Yeah, which I think is really good.
Japan go on to win 2-1. It's the first time an Asian team has beaten a South American team at a World Cup. But Colombia's goal is great. The Quintero free kick. It's the one where he kicks it underneath the wall.
That was it.
Oh, they're always fun.
Yeah, the wall jumps and he kicks it underneath. It's basically a side foot and it goes in.
Beautiful.
Because there was a thing of players lying down underneath the wall. So we could all still jump. And you just have to sit there and just go, oh, has it come to this where I'm having to lie down on the floor?
Yeah. The John McGinn role. In a 2-2 draw with Senegal, Keisuke Honda becomes the first Japanese player to score in 3 World Cups and becomes Asia's top World Cup goal scorer with 4. Sadio Mane scores for Senegal in this game. He once scored a hat-trick against Aston Villa in 176 seconds.
How was that?
Meh. Bloody typical. That's how that was. Colombia beat Poland 3-0, so Poland are out. Radamel Falcao scores. He's named after Falcao from the Brazil squad, the 8th.
Oh, well, wow. Okay, I didn't realize that.
He's also married to an Argentinian with Polish ancestry.
Fun.
And his great-grandfather was from Selby.
In North Yorkshire?
Yes, that's
Wow.
right. Radamel Falcao's dad tried to get Radamel Falcao a British passport, but it got rejected because, of course, it did.
What a waste.
Yeah, God, imagine.
A month before the World Cup, Falcao was given a 16-month suspended sentence and a €9 million fine for tax evasion. So really, he would have fit right in round here. Colombia beats Senegal 1-0 after Yerry Mina scores, and then the whole team stands in a line and does that wobbly arm dance. What's that called?
Ooh.
You hold their hand and you move your arm up, and then they move their arm up.
Yeah.
Like the chain.
Yeah, like a chain. This means Japan can lose by 1 goal and still qualify if they don't pick up more than 3 yellow cards. So Poland go 1-0 up, and then both teams are quite happy with that. Poland are already out, but at least they get a win at the end. Japan are like, well, we just don't want to get booked. So the game just peters out into nothing.
That's bonkers. Is that the first time it's been decided by fair play?
That is correct, yes.
Does that get a ding?
Yes, Senegal are the first team eliminated on disciplinary record.
Amazing. They'd played against each other and got a 2-2 draw, and they had the exact same goal difference.
Poland have won all 14 World Cup games in which they've scored first.
Wow.
That might be something to watch out for this year. And for the first time since the round of 16 came in 1986, there are no African teams in it.
Oh.
Great.
It's a sad ping.
That's a sad ping. Very much so.
In the Poland squad, Robert Lewandowski, Poland's top scorer with 76. He's currently in 3rd behind Puskás and Cristiano Ronaldo in European football history for international goals. His wife won a bronze medal in the 2009 Karate World Cup.
Oh, yes, please.
Fantastic.
There's Kamil Glik, their centre-back, who Italian rapper Willy Peyote dedicated a song to.
Willy Peyote?
Yeah.
Worst of all the drugs you can take in the desert.
Doesn't he chase Roadrunner around?
Yeah. He's going to chase that player who was named Mig Mig. Yeah.
Coming up in part 2 of our deep dive of the 2018 World Cup. Goals, comebacks, shocks, a thing we never thought we'd see in our lifetimes, the Croatians who never get tired, and we will reveal which World Cup is the greatest of all time as the World Cup of World Cups continues.